Hello and welcome to the Clashing of Steel. So today I am doing a review on Boudica. I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly, but anyways, she's the commander you will most likely play with war dogs. Most of her skills support war dogs and melee infantry. So the first skill she has is Fury. It's a long impact charge that gives you arrow block and slight movement speed for the period. You can upgrade impact, arrow block and speed. For the next skill, Boudica has Ambush. It will give you view range and missile weapon range, but at the same time it will lower your movement speed. It's an excellent scouting ability and has mostly upgrades of view range and movement speed. For the final skill, Boudica has Rebellion. It's a 30 seconds long buff that has a 10 seconds wind up time that gives you melee weapon damage, melee defense and ground effect modifier. It also affects all allies in the radius, giving them the same buff. It can be upgraded to increase defense, to increase offense and also to reduce the cooldown. So let's head over to the gameplay. First things you need to know about Boudica when playing her with the war dogs is never to send your dogs in a one huge pile. Although it can be effective on occasions, it isn't suggested, because any ranged weapon damage or anything that does the damage to a pile of units will be a lot more effective when your units are stacked. Another great example would be Shield Bash. When all of your units are in, all of the dogs are smashed into each other and the opponent shield bashes, all your units will take huge amounts of damage. It can be avoided by sending in one unit and pulling the other one back out, like switching units around. Never having more than one unit of dogs engaging the opponents at a time. One of the main things to remember with the war dogs is that they will always engage the closest opponent. If you will send them running out, they will engage the closest opponent to them, but they don't have a massive range. If the war dogs reach the marked destination, they will either stay there until they will find an opponent, or until you call them back. There are several ways you can use war dogs, but the most effective seems to be the harassment. Sending them in and pulling them back out. Never leave them engaged for as long as you would leave melee infantry. There are actually some situations where you can leave the war dogs engaged, when you send the dogs in and you go for the flank yourself. That way the opponents are focused to fight with your dogs and you can flank perfectly. Although they can act to your flanking, your dogs will be harassing them all the way. But if you see a situation where you know that you can't go in to attack, but you can use your dogs to harass, you can use them. You just need to pull them out at right moments. You also need to be very careful of the friendly fire. The friendly fire can be really dangerous. Archers may be firing on the target you want to harass, and they might not stop firing until it is too late. Dogs are countered by few things. 1. Ranged fire. 2. Heavy defense units. Units that have remarkable shield defense, for example. For example, when you're playing Salla and you use Fortify, the war dogs can't do that much damage to you. Or when you're playing Armored Legionnaires. The charge impact will still do damage. They will also do a bit damage, but the defense that the unit or the skill has can make you overcome the war dogs in a struggle match. Another weakness is the war dog handlers. If the war dogs are away and the handlers are engaged, they might not overcome the opponents. And if the handlers die, the war dogs will die as well. Perhaps die is a wrong word, but you will lose the control of the war dog your handler was handling. Meaning that the number of dogs that you control is reduced. War dogs can also be used as kind of a flankers. You can command your units to move around the opponent, and then release the dogs on different sides, flanking them and harassing them. By sending in the handlers as well with a charge, it can be rather strong and rather effective. Before I forget to mention it, the war dogs ignore phalanx. Phalanx is what the pikemen have and what the spearmen have, when they are deployed and staggering all opponents that are engaging them, from the front at least. War dogs ignore it and can be also used as a way to force pikemen into melee combat. It also works on spearmen, and if the pikemen and spearmen don't do nothing while in phalanx, the war dogs will do lots of damage and will neutralize them in a matter of time. If you see an opening, you can let war dogs hunt down archers. They will catch archers up rather fast and will do really heavy damage towards them, while receiving near to none damage themselves. Although the war dogs have weak armor, they can do rather well against light units, or units without any significant melee damage. Another great thing that you can do with war dogs is let them out on the cavalry. If you catch the cavalry by surprise, the war dogs will do lots of damage. But at the same time, a perfectly stacked cavalry that can charge into your war dogs can do a lot of impact damage towards your dogs. It can be a risky situation, but the war dogs can harass horses a lot better than they can harass most other sword shield infantry. You just need to be very careful when you try to engage or counter the opponent's cavalry. You can try and use the ambush to just be in the forest and give you that extra vision range to scout ahead, to show you when you should release your dogs. You can use the fury to charge in from behind of the opponents that your dogs are engaging, to use them as a different unit to flank in. But probably one of the harder things to use is the rebellion. You need to time it, you need to see what's going on, you need to plan it. Although you can use it as a support skill, it can be rather hard if you're just running around and popping it every now and then. Also, if your units are nearby, it isn't suggested that you will activate it on all 3 units. You might just activate it on a single unit, and when it expires, activate it on another unit. That way, having nearly an endless circle of the rebellion. It affects your dogs as well, so you might want to use it on right moments. It does not affect your war dogs when it is activated and they are out of its range. So activate it, and before the end of the wind-up time, few seconds, you can let your war dogs go. When you're playing with war dogs, it may often seem that you are suffering heavy casualties, that a lot of dogs are dead, that a lot of soldiers are dead. But if you play it right, your casualties will usually pay off. There is almost near to no way you can do it all clean without losing any war dogs, or any handlers for that matter. You need to use what you have, and you need to cooperate with your team members. In best case scenarios, you will let your dogs loose against pikemen and spearmen, so that the other melee units can engage them. In other occasions, you can just send your dogs in to harass, pull them back out, send them back in again. Never try to send them in a huge pile. You don't want to make them an easy target for anything, any skill, any unit type. You want to use them to the best of your abilities, you want to spread them. Or you just want to rotate with them, sending one unit in, pulling it back out, and sending in another. You can also use war dogs to bait out certain skills. For example, Germanicus' Vengeance. If your opponent isn't smart enough, it might actually work. Your dogs can be excellent at flanking. Try to use them in any situation you can. Try not to force them in from the front to your own melee units. Otherwise they will just push through and be between 2 fighting melee infantries. If you can, spread your units, move them around the opponents so that all war dogs don't come from the same direction. It might be easy target for ranged units. It might just mess up the war dogs' charges if you just send them in a too close range and in a bad rotation. The best things I can suggest with Boudica is try the war dogs out, try the rotations, try to use your war dogs properly. You don't want to send them in a huge pile, you don't want to leave them in combat head on for too long, especially if they're being targeted. Try to use the rebellion properly, try to time it, learn how you should use your war dogs, and perhaps don't activate rebellion on all 3 units. You can also play Boudica with melee infantry. The charge that she has is rather strong. The benefit from the rebellion is rather strong for the melee infantry, and also if you want to scout, ambush can help you rather well. I think I listed the biggest main ways you can use Boudica. There are some other minor ways you can use her, as a buffer or a scout. Also supporting your team members by flanking or covering their rears. I definitely suggest checking her out. I did some incredible scores with her, and the war dogs kinda seem to pay for themselves. With a little logical thinking and tactical awareness, you can do a lot. So this was it about the Boudica. Anyways, don't forget to subscribe, and thanks for watching.